Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to talk about basic tips and tricks every beginner player to Galaxy should learn. First, I want to give a huge thanks to Pumpkin Guys for helping me film this video. Without him, this would have been a lot more difficult. It is very important that starter players focus on mining and frigate transport ships first. This will help them in the long run significantly. I see many times, including myself, players will go for the biggest warships instead of focusing on economy, mining, and credit income. It will help you so much in the future if you focus on mining and good Aurora Quill before you get any battleship or anything like that. It makes grinding a lot easier if you get that out of the way quickly. Work on your warehouses periodically as you progress through the game. Don't wait till the end to upgrade them. That's what I did, and it sucked. It's not fun. Be smart, don't be like how I used to play at the start. Get good miners first, and then focus on warships. Don't mine at war, or trade at war. People always complain about how they have lost so many miners. I have never lost a single miner, and I've been playing this game off and on for 4 years. Why? Don't mine at war. It's pretty simple. There's a very simple trick in this game, known as the cost command, which new players may not know about, but basically what it does is it lets you see the cost of the ship. So instead of constantly having to go back to your base or Google it on the internet, you can just do simply this. I want to know the cost of the Ridge Breaker. Type exactly this command, cost, space, ridge. You don't have to type out the entire ship name for the ship to come out. Here, it now shows me the cost of the Ridge Breaker. Warping is very important to this game, and it is important to understand how it works. When you warp, the warp bar will show notches with numbers so you know how far you are going. Once you get used to warping, you start to figure out the unlabeled marks in between the notches on the bar. You can also cancel a warp in the middle of warping. However, if you cancel it, you get a few second cooldown. The further you warp, the longer cooldown you get. For example, if you warp over 100k, you will most likely have a 20-second cooldown. However, if you're going to warp maybe 3000, whatever the measurement system is in this game, you'll have a shorter cooldown of maybe 9 seconds or less. Next, I want to talk about some basic combat tips. If all you do is fly straight up to your enemy in a straight line and begin to fire, you're going to lose very quickly, especially if they're in a more powerful ship, as shown in this example. Warping is a huge part of combat in this game. A warp can let you dodge incoming spinels that may destroy your ship, or it may let you get the upper hand on your opponent in the battle. If you use warp effectively, then you can oftentimes outmaneuver your opponent. You can use the warp to warp directly underneath somebody so you get maximum damage on them. This is extremely effective on ships that have large blind spots, such as a deity, judgment, anything like that. However, warping to defeat enemies is just as important as warping away so you can escape your enemy. If you wait too long to warp away from a losing battle, you will lose your ship. If you're hold, you know it's time to run, unless your opponent is also very low. Hold means your shield has been completely deployed. Also, a dive means an enemy ship or your ship will warp and chase an enemy vessel that is dying to any end. It will even go into the opponent's main base. Next, it is important for beginner players to understand the basics of weapon types. Railguns, point defense, and flat cannons all do more damage to the hull, while lasers do more damage to shields. For spinels, lasers do more damage to shields, and cannons do more damage to hull. Point defense and flat cannons are very fast firing and accurate, so they're great at killing fighters, and they can be used as like AA. For a good example of this is the Loyalist. The Loyalist is fantastic at screening fighters. Railguns are long-range weapons that are great for taking down large enemy ships or bases. These are very long-range cannons that do tremendous damage to the hull, and typically the range could be like anywhere from 7k, 8k. Lasers are extremely important because without them you cannot take down an enemy shield in an effective manner, and they're very many types of lasers. There's fast-firing accurate lasers, there's long-range lasers, there's so many different variations of lasers. In combat, it is important to know what kind of fight you're getting into. For example, if you're in a weaker ship and take on a much more powerful vessel, it will not go well for you. Obviously. In this example, I'm using my Alpha ship to 1v1 a Genesis. The Alpha ship is far superior and much more powerful, and the Genesis, it just clearly is going to lose. However, if there was 2, 3, 4 Genesis versus my Alpha, there would be no way I could win. Several smaller and cheaper vessels can oftentimes overpower one huge vessel. You do not necessarily need the biggest, most expensive ship in the game to perform well in fleets. But size isn't everything. Smaller ships can oftentimes take down larger ships 1v1 in. For example, I'm using my judgment to fight his Santalas. The Santalas would clearly win this battle due to its dodging capabilities and its spinals. It would take a while, but I would lose, unless I get lucky and have a full volley land. The Judgment is very slow firing, but is a higher tier ship and much larger, but as you can clearly see, that doesn't always mean it's better. Next, I want to talk about recognizing ship types. It is important to know what icons on the minimap stand for. There is Admin, Alien, Fighter, Miner, Freighter, Battlecruiser, Battleship, Carrier, Destroyer, Dreadnought, and Super Capital. But it's important to know what each symbol on the map represents so you know the type of fight you're going to get into if you warp to them. If you see an enemy Dreadnought pointing its arrow shape towards your base, that means it is most likely going to warp towards you. Wherever the arrow is pointing on the symbol, that is the direction the player is currently pointing. Therefore, you could expect them to either be warping that direction or preparing to attack in that way. Oftentimes, you can avoid losing ships by predicting when enemies will dive by looking on the minimap to see where their ships are pointing. It is very important to make sure you use the correct ship for the right role. For example, if you're fighting smaller ships such as Swarmers Fighters, you want to use an AA ship, like the Majol or the Loyalist or the Tempest. They do great against those. Even the Hailstorm, but starter players aren't going to get a Hailstorm. You don't want to be using something like a Spinal based ship against a Swarmer, because as you can see here, it doesn't work. Now, this ship's a little bit more difficult to explain and to understand, but it's an advanced way of turning known as drifting. Drifting is very effective when using spinal-based ships or fast ships to dodge incoming fire. As you can see here, when I simply approach the enemy, I get a lot more damage dealt on me. However, there is an incorrect way to drift. If you are drifting and you're not orbiting your target, you will still get shot just as many times. But as you can see here in this example, when you do drift around, it is much more difficult to hit them. However, they may still get hit if you're using an accurate ship, but they will not get hit as often. The way you drift is, let's say I want to turn to the left, or I'm going to drift to the left. I would fly my ship at max speed, left click, turn my ship to the left, and then hold Q to lock it into a motion of drifting. You should stay at roughly 10 lower or 10 higher of your speed. You shouldn't drop that much. And then the way I do it is I gradually click the left mouse button so I orbit around my target. I know there's better ways to do it, and I'd love it if someone left a comment down below if there's a better technique than this, because I'm sure there is, but this is just how I do it, and it is very effective when drifting around bases or other ships when firing spinals. Anyways, that's going to be the end of this video. I'd love it if you could leave some comments down below recommending what videos you'd want to see from me next, or any tips and tricks I did not mention here that you think beginners should know. Anyways, thank you very much for watching and have an excellent day.